Hey guys, how are you? I haven't forgot about you. I know it's a very interesting time. Given that you're an upper division class, I've kind of put off your videos till the end. I apologize at some end, but hey, uh, you know, Odie here will probably forgive me, and I'm sure that Finn will too. All they want to do is play with the ball. So hey, I'll sit here, they can play with the ball. Let's go over a few things, trying to at least get some stuff out that you guys need to know for this class. This class is pretty important to me, obviously, because, police systems is what I did in my career. And there's things that I want students leaving the class to have an understanding of. Because of that, I have to do a video at this point. Let's first try and relieve some of your anxiety. I'm getting emails from you. Clearly, test three, we had to change formats because we're not on campus, which is why we did the paper comparing and contrasting. Still, a few of you haven't turned it in. You got to get it in. Remember, in this class, your grades are based on 4 exams. That was test 3. We have one more, the final, and I'll kind of through this lecture give you an idea what that final paper is going to be. But it's going to be based on lectures that we're going to be doing throughout the remainder of the semester, as well as readings that I'm going to be assigning. So again, this is where we're at. I hope everybody's being safe. If you have concerns, get a hold of me. I know I've got students that are having a tough time because the library's closing or they just don't have access to internet. Get a hold of me. We'll try and work through that. But having said that, let's try and focus on really why you took this class, other than just trying to graduate, and some of the takeaways I want you to have an understanding of. The reason I assigned you to compare and contrast another country is I want you to look at criminal justice and the way we deal with people that do bad things in society. Not that the United States is the only one that has good ideas. There's a lot of great ideas out there. Certainly we're doing a lot of good things, but there are things we can change. When we start talking about change, and be thinking of the things that I'm saying now, because when you write your final paper, it's going to be the focus of that paper is really going to be what fundamental change would you do to our criminal justice system? And I want you to think of it in two regards. When you hear criminal justice reform, we hear this in Congress all the time. When you hear reform, that means something is terribly wrong. We need to fix it. I mean, it's broken. So when you hear the term reform, something's wrong, very bad. We need to change it. When we talk about organizational change, that's not the same as reform. So when you write your paper, a lot of you can write it from the approach that you're not trying to say things are broken, but certainly we need some organizational change. This is different from reform. It's very gradual. It's a gradual transition to do things that are working elsewhere or things that are not working for us. So keep that in mind as you start thinking, because I'm going to have you write a paper about what number one thing do you think, based on a lot of our lecture topics, needs to be changed. This gradual organizational change in police agencies across the country. One of the key things I want you to be thinking about is, in order to make change happen with current police officers and agencies, it's like raising kids. How do we do this? Do we reward good behavior? Do we give extra pay? Very controversial. So do we reward good behavior, good departments, or do we punish departments and officers in a way that we know deterrence just doesn't work in many organizations? So what are we going to do to change? Is it going to be punishment or reward? Keep that in the back of your mind as you start reading different things across the country and departments. One of the things I want to bring up, and I generally hand out a handout to you, is this idea of arguing. Clearly, I'm not opposed to arguing. I like arguing. In fact, this whole idea of disagreement is a good thing. We get change as a result of disagreeing. But let's be smarter than the average bear, okay? Because disagreeing is good, but let's do it beyond what you see in politics today. I want you to remember this term because I want you to put it in your paper at some point. It's Graham's hierarchy of disagreement. Graham, Grahams. Graham's Hierarchy of Disagreement. And I'm going to kind of go over it with you briefly so that you have an understanding of what this whole idea is. Clearly, Graham, when he wrote this in Academic in 2008, he was frustrated with a lot of politics and people disagreeing. So he created this hierarchy. It's nothing more than a triangle at the bottom. The majority of the world are out there disagreeing. They disagree, and at the bottom level, those are the people that are they're name calling. It's nothing more than name calling. How many times have you seen our current president or other people basically just saying, "You're an asshole, you're an asshat," and just name calling? You clearly don't like this person, but you're just making fun of them, calling them by name. Lots of people doing this. What we're trying to do is focus your disagreement at the next level, to try and summarize it a little bit. It's going beyond calling somebody a name. Certainly Graham calls it ad hominem, but it's this idea that I'm not going to personally call you a name, but I'm going to attack your police department. I'm going to attack your city. How many times do we hear about New York or California attacking the general location? Again, a lot of people are doing that, but less than just name calling. Move it up to the tone, and remember, I'm trying to refine your disagreement and your anger. I get it. A lot of you are angry out there. You need to focus from the state, the county, to the city, and then more specifically, maybe to the sheriff. But again, you're still at the bottom of this disagreement. You're saying, I don't like what the sheriff's doing. I don't like what the chief's doing. I don't like what the department's doing, but you're not telling me why. Again, you're refining. You're better than just calling somebody an asshat. But now you're saying, I don't like what you're doing, this particular policy. I want you to move now your argument to a counter argument. I want you to say things specifically like, I don't like what Cedar City Police Department's doing, this particular thing that they're doing. Be specific. But again, we've refined it, but not enough. Now what I want you to do, and in your paper, I'm expecting you to do, is go beyond this policy of the department and now move it into a realm of, I am now doing research. I have a counter argument. My counter argument is this other agency is doing it differently and it's working. And to get to the top of the pyramid, if you're going to really disagree with somebody and not look foolish, find specific things that you disagree with and then research your ideas and find whether or not you're accurate in what you're assessing, because sometimes you might not be. So in your paper, I really want you to be looking at Graham's Hierarchy of Disagreement. A few things that I want you to start thinking about before I end the video, because I want you to start focusing on specifics. Remember, I just talked about specifics. We've clearly seen a lot of academic papers written about, well, the communities are not happy with police officers in their areas. And there's a lot of reason for that. We have a lot of new cops that work in areas that need attention. And the community wants those police officers there. They're there for 6 months, they move on to another area. Should we require police officers to stay in a permanent beat for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Very controversial. If you're a new cop working, maybe you want to go on to narcotics and vice and SWAT. But do those communities deserve to have that high turnaround? Be thinking about that. Another thing I want you to be thinking about is, should the department have a significant role in keeping the community up to date? In Vegas, we had a thing called First Tuesday, where the first Tuesday of every month, we would meet with the community members and answer any question they had. And they knew every Tuesday they could come to the stations and can get those answers. It wasn't like most departments that they just stay inside their buildings until something bad, like coronavirus, happens, and then they come out and talk. We should have that, this rapport with the community from day one. How should we build it? How should this work, and what agencies are doing a good job? So be thinking about that. Another thing that I want to be talking about before we leave is, as departments start to need more personnel, and they're going to during these times, these are tough times. I've never seen anything like it. We look at new officers coming into the field in 3 different times. We actually assess them. Number one, when we decide whether or not we're going to hire new cops. During their career, We're going to look at them to decide whether or not we're going to reassign them to SWAT, to this. So we'll look at what they've been, what they've done, and then we look at what have you done to deserve promotion. So when you start looking at how do we start to do gradual change, a lot of it, and we're going to talk about it in a future lecture, is what kind of cops should we hire at the entry? What cops should we allow to promote? What are things that we know based on research that make bad cops make bad supervisor? So be focusing on these things. Your final paper, at this point you should have had 3 tests. Your final paper in this class is going to be still only 15%, but I'm going to be a little bit more picky. Are you guys paying attention? You're not paying attention. Anyway, one more paper. I'm clearly going to be giving you academic articles that I want you to read. I'm going to be giving you points for nothing other than just reading them. So don't worry about extra credit. If you read them, and I get it, a lot of you can bullshit me and just say, I read it. Fine, if that's what you want to do, but I'm going to be assigning things to you to read to help your paper. It's not busy work. I'm not trying to give you a crossword puzzle here. If you don't want to read it and you just want to send me, I read it, that's on you. I can clearly will be able to tell in your paper when you turn your paper in. But again, stay safe. That's the main thing. You know, a lot of you are there. You're doing fine, doing the right things. A lot of you are struggling. I get it. If you're having problems, get a hold of me. That's more important than anything I talk about in this class. So be safe. I'll see you next time.